This wasn't just a wedding. It was the merger of a century. Evelyn Hayes, a brilliant innovator, was about to marry Jaden Thorne, the billionaire tycoon who seemed to worship her. The guests were a who's who of New York's elite. The dress was worth more than a house. But as Evelyn stood in her bridal suite, just 1 minute from walking down the aisle, her tablet chimed. It wasn't a congratulatory text. It was a secure file. And what it contained would not just stop the wedding. It would ignite a war. The scent of 1,000 white peonies hung heavy in the air, a cloying sweetness that was suddenly making Evelyn Hayes feel sick. She stood before a 3-panel mirror in the bridal suite of Greystone Manor, a sprawling Westchester estate that made a mockery of the word home. It was Jaden's family estate, of course. Everything was Jaden's. The dress, a custom Vera Brown, was a masterpiece of silk and hand-sewn lace that whispered against the marble floor. On her left hand, the 8-carat Asher-cut diamond, the Thorne Legacy Diamond, the press had dubbed it, felt less like a ring and more like a beautifully crafted manacle. Evelyn was a practical woman. As the founder of Hayes Innovations, she was a rising star in sustainable architecture. Her life's work was developing greencrete, a revolutionary, carbon-neutral building material that was poised to change the world. She built things that lasted, things that mattered. Jaden Thorne, on the other hand, was a corporate titan, the CEO of Thorne Dynamics, a private equity firm that specialized in acquiring and restructuring other companies. He was a force of nature, all charisma, sharp suits, and a smile that could disarm world leaders. She loved him. She truly, deeply loved him. He'd swept into her life at a gallery benefit, listened to her nerdy talk about tensile strength and CO2 sequestration for an hour, and looked at her not like a curiosity, but like she was the only person in the room. He championed her, celebrated her. When he proposed on a yacht in Monaco, she felt like the luckiest woman alive. "Evelyn, honey, it's almost time." Her father, Arthur Hayes, stood in the doorway. He was a kind man, a retired civil engineer who looked thoroughly out of place in his rented tuxedo. He held her bouquet of lilies of the valley. "You look radiant, Ellie." Just radiant. His eyes were misty. "Thanks, Dad." She tried to smile, but her stomach did another flip. Nerves, she told herself. Just wedding day nerves. The guest list below was a sea of power. Descendants of the Astors and Rockefellers mingled with tech billionaires and senators. This was Jaden's world. "Just be happy, Evelyn," Arthur said, his voice quiet. "That's all I've ever wanted." He'd been skeptical of Jaden. "Men like that don't just fall in love, Ellie," he'd warned. "They make acquisitions." Evelyn had dismissed it. "He's not like that, Dad. He believes in my work." Now she wasn't so sure. The past month had been a blur. Jaden's lawyers, a shark-toothed team from a top Manhattan firm, had presented her with the prenuptial agreement. It was hundreds of pages long. Her own lawyer, a man highly recommended by Jaden's chief of staff, had waved her through it. Standard. This clause just protects Mr. Thorne from prior corporate liabilities. This one ensures joint intellectual property remains separate unless consolidated post-merger. It had all sounded fine. "I'm ready," she lied, taking the bouquet. "All right, the music is starting. I'll see you at the bottom of the stairs." Her father kissed her cheek and left, his footsteps echoing on the marble. Evelyn was alone. She took one last look in the mirror. The bride, Mrs. Jaden Thorne. Bling. The sound, so mundane, cut through the silence. It came from her work tablet, sitting on the antique vanity. She'd been reviewing blueprints for a new pediatric wing in Brooklyn just this morning, unable to turn off her brain. Probably just a final good luck email from her team. She walked over, her heavy train dragging behind her. The screen was dark, but a single notification glowed. It was from a secure, encrypted email address she didn't recognize. From Veritas77. Subject, the man you are about to marry. Her heart didn't just stop. It felt like it was instantly encased in ice. Her hand, the one with the ring, trembled violently as she tapped the message. Ms. Hayes, you think you are marrying a man. You are executing a contract. He isn't protecting his assets, he's stealing yours. You are the acquisition. See attached. There were 3 files. File 01, audio, Dempior. File 02, financials, DIDF. File 03, the Vance ot contract.privepev. Outside, the grand sweeping notes of Canon in D began to filter up the stairs. It was her cue. She was supposed to be walking. She clicked the first file. It was a video, but the screen was black. It was audio only, recorded secretly. She heard Jaden's voice, unmistakable, smooth as velvet. The merger will be complete by 3 p.m. tomorrow. A woman's voice, cool and familiar. Seraphil Vance, Jaden's hyper-efficient, rail-thin chief of staff. And the board is comfortable with the terms? The board? Jaden laughed, a low, cruel sound Evelyn had never heard before, is irrelevant. The prenup is the real contract. Her father's signature as a witness to the personal assets addendum gives us all we need. The moment she says, I do, her Green Crete patent, her company, everything she's built, it all consolidates under the new Thorne-Hayes matrimonial fund, which I, of course, solely manage. It's brilliant, Seraphil said, using her own lawyer against her. He's a good dog. Sits, stays, rolls over. Evelyn is smart, but she's an idealist. She sees a sustainable future. I see a $1 trillion asset. We strip the patent, sell it to the Saudis for their new mega project, and dissolve her little innovations company by Q4. She'll be so busy being Mrs. Thorne, she won't even notice until the ink is dry. Evelyn's breath hitched. The room began to spin, the scent of peonies choking her. And her? Seraphil's voice dropped, becoming intimate. What happens to the brilliant architect? She'll have a lovely gilded cage, darling, all the charity balls and private jets she can handle. There was a sound of a kiss. She'll be fine. Now, let's go over the offshore transfers one more time, the ones she won't know about. Evelyn's knees gave out. She sank onto the velvet bench, the tablet falling into her lap. The music swelled, a beautiful, horrible lie. He wasn't marrying her. He was gutting her. The world compressed to a single, roaring point. The blood pounded in Evelyn's ears, drowning out the orchestra. He isn't marrying me. He's acquiring me. I am the acquisition. Her first instinct was a primal scream, to run, to tear the dress, to find Jaden and claw his smiling face. The second was to collapse, to let the floor swallow her whole. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing down on her chest, stealing her breath. He didn't just betray her love, he weaponized it. He saw her passion, her life's work, as a $1 trillion asset to be stripped and sold. Her trembling hand moved to the second file. File 02, Financials PDF. It was a wire transfer statement from a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands to an account at a private Swiss bank, the one Jaden always used, Julius Baer. The recipient name was redacted, but the transfer amount was staggering, $20 million marked as a consulting fee. The date was for tomorrow, the day after the wedding, a bonus. Then the final file. File 03, the Vance contract.pdf. It was an employment contract, not for Seraphil Vance, but for a Sarah Jenkins. It was a shadow contract, a golden parachute guaranteeing Ms. Jenkins a 10% stake in the profits from the sale of confidential intellectual property acquired via the Thorne-Hayes Matrimonial Fund. Seraphil Vance. Sarah Jenkins. It was her, his mistress, his partner. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a conspiracy. Thump, thump, thump. "Evelyn?" Her father's voice, muffled by the heavy oak door. "Everyone is waiting. The music has started its loop. Is everything all right?" No. Nothing will ever be all right again. Evelyn looked up, catching her reflection in the mirror. She saw a ghost. A pale, wide-eyed woman, draped in white, her mascara just beginning to bleed at the corners of her eyes. A fool. A lamb led to a slaughterhouse dressed in Vera Brown. Jaden's words echoed. She'll have a lovely, gilded cage. A cold, hard fury, unlike anything Evelyn had ever known, began to burn through the ice in her veins. It started in her stomach and spread outwards, a wildfire of pure, undiluted rage. He thought she was a busy little wife-to-be. He thought she was an idealist. He thought she wouldn't notice. He'd underestimated her. It was the last mistake he would ever make. "Evelyn!" Her father's knock was more urgent now. "Ellie, please, open the door." She stood up. The dress no longer felt like a costume. It felt like armor. She grabbed her tablet. She stalked to the door, ripped it open, and faced her terrified father. "Dad," she said, her voice a low, gravelly thing she didn't recognize. "The wedding is off." Arthur's face went from confusion to panic. "What? What happened? Did you have a fight?" "He's a criminal, Dad. He's a liar and a thief, and I am not marrying him." She pushed past him into the grand hallway. The orchestra was downstairs, in the main ballroom, beautifully hidden. The soaring strings of Canon in D felt like a personal insult. "Evelyn, wait!" Her father grabbed her arm. "You can't just... There are 500 people down there. The press, the Secretary of State. What are you going to do?" Evelyn looked at the grand staircase that curved down into the ballroom. Jaden would be there, at the end of the aisle, smiling that devastating smile, checking his Patek Philippe, wondering what was taking his asset so long. "You're right, Dad," she said, a terrible, cold calm settling over her. "I can't just leave. I have to make an announcement." "What kind of announcement?" Evelyn didn't answer. She saw a small alcove where the wedding planner had set up a soundboard to coordinate the music. A single silver microphone, meant for the reception toasts, sat on the console. She grabbed it. She flicked the switch to on. A high-pitched squeal of feedback ripped through the manor, cutting the orchestra off mid-note. Below, the murmur of the crowd died instantly. 500 pairs of eyes turned from the altar to the top of the grand staircase. Evelyn Hayes, the radiant bride, stood there, bathed in the light of a crystal chandelier. Her bouquet was gone. In her hand was a microphone. Jaden looked up. His smile faltered, replaced by a mask of confusion. "Jaden!" Evelyn's voice boomed through the ballroom, amplified, sharp, and laced with steel. "You look surprised to see me." The silence in the Greystone Manor ballroom was absolute. It was so quiet Evelyn could hear the faint click of the champagne glasses as a waiter froze mid-stride. Every eye was locked on her. In the front row, she saw Seraphil Vance, dressed in a sleek, silver Armani dress, her face a perfect placid mask. Jaden, standing at the altar under a 10-foot arch of roses, forced a laugh. It sounded small and tinny in the vast space. "Evelyn, darling, you've forgotten your bouquet. Getting a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we?" He started to walk toward the staircase, his arms open, playing the part of the charmed, indulgent groom. "Come on, my love, Let's not keep our guests waiting." "Stop," she commanded. Her voice, amplified, cracked like a whip. Jaden froze. "Don't come any closer, Jaden. I wouldn't want you to be in the splash zone when this all blows up." A collective gasp went through the crowd. This was not on the program. "Evelyn, what is this?" he hissed, his smile gone, his eyes turning to black ice. "Stop this. You're making a scene." "A scene?" Evelyn laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "You're right, I am. But you're the one who wrote the script." She held up her tablet. "I apologize to all of you," she said, her voice projecting to the rafters. "You all came here today for a wedding, but it seems I was mistaken about the event. I thought this was a marriage. As it turns out, it's a— what did you call it, Jaden? A hostile takeover." Jaden's face went white. Beside him, his best man, a hedge fund manager named Marcus, looked utterly baffled. "I don't know what you're talking about," Jaden snapped, his public voice returning. "My fiancée is— she's clearly under a lot of stress. She's not well." "Oh, I am very well, Jaden. I've never been better. I've never seen more clearly. For instance, I see Seraphiel Vance in the front row. Stand up, Seraphiel." Seraphiel did not move. Her placid mask was crumbling. "I said, stand up!" Evelyn barked. Slowly, shakily, Seraphiel stood. "You two," Evelyn said, gesturing between Jaden at the altar and Seraphiel in the pew, "have been very, very busy. I found your audio file, the one where you plan to strip the patent from my company and dissolve it by Q4, the one where you promise me a lovely, gilded cage." This was a nightmare. This was a page 6 headline exploding in real time. Jaden's mother, a formidable woman in sapphire blue, looked like she was about to faint. "Evelyn, this is slander!" Jaden shouted, finally moving, lunging for the staircase. "Security! Get her! Her father has poisoned her against me." "My father did nothing," Evelyn yelled, stepping back. "You did this, and you were so arrogant, you thought I'd be too stupid, too starry-eyed to ever find out." "Find out what?" someone yelled from the crowd. "Find out this!" Evelyn knew the sound system was linked. She'd watched the AV team set it up. She swiped on her tablet and hit AirPlay. She found the ballroom's main speaker system, Ballroom Main. She clicked. The feedback squealed again, and then Jaden's voice, the velvet, private, cruel voice from the recording, filled the ballroom. "The merger will be complete by 3 p.m. tomorrow. And the board is comfortable with the terms? The board is irrelevant. The prenup is the real contract." The entire room heard it. The conspiracy, the plan to steal her company, the gilded cage, and then, the most damning part, the unmistakable intimate sound of a kiss, followed by Jaden's voice. "Now let's go over the offshore transfers one more time, the ones she won't know about." The audio clicked off. Evelyn looked down at the sea of horrified, scandalized faces. She looked at Seraphiel, who was sprinting for the exit. "Security!" Evelyn's father, Arthur, roared, finally understanding. "Stop that woman! Seraphiel Vance! Stop her!" 2 off-duty cops, hired for the event, grabbed Seraphiel at the main door. She shrieked, a sound nothing like her cool, professional demeanor. Evelyn then looked at Jaden. He stood perfectly still at the foot of the stairs, his mask of civilization completely gone. His face was a contortion of pure, reptilian hatred. The man she thought she loved was gone. In his place was a monster. "You bitch," he whispered, so low only she could hear him. "You have no idea," she whispered back. She held the microphone to her lips one last time. "The wedding," she announced, her voice shaking but victorious, "is off. But I'd advise the press to stay. I believe the FBI and the SEC might be very interested in the rest of these files. As for you, Jayden," she looked him dead in the eye. "Get out of my house." She had forgotten. It wasn't his house. Greystone Manor had been a wedding gift from him to her. The deed quietly transferred 2 weeks ago as a show of good faith. She corrected herself, a cold, vicious smile spreading across her face. "No, wait, I'm sorry. Get out of my house." She let the microphone drop. It hit the marble floor with a resounding, echoing thud. The explosion was immediate. It was not a polite, high society dispersal. It was a stampede. The thud of the microphone was replaced by a roar of voices, the frantic clicking of phone cameras, and the scraping of chairs. This was the biggest scandal to hit New York's elite since Bernie Madoff. "Evelyn!" Jayden roared, his face purple. He bounded up the stairs, 2 at a time, grabbing for her. "You've destroyed me. You've destroyed everything." He lunged for the tablet. "Give me that! Get your hands off her!" Arthur Hayes, no longer a mild-mannered engineer but a father protecting his child, slammed his shoulder into Jayden, sending the billionaire staggering back. "You hit me?" Jayden shrieked, his voice cracking. "You dare to touch me? I will ruin you. I will ruin your entire family." "You already tried," Evelyn screamed back. From the ballroom floor, chaos reigned. The press, who had been cordoned off outside to get arrival shots, were now storming the doors, overwhelming the private security. Phones were held high, broadcasting the entire meltdown live on Instagram. The headlines were already writing themselves. Billionaire betrayal, wedding day war, the Thorne-Hayes homicide. Seraphiel Vance, or Sarah Jenkins, was screeching as the security guards held her arms. "I did nothing. It was all him. He made me. I have proof. He's a monster." "You're a monster, too," a guest, one of Evelyn's bridesmaids, yelled, throwing a glass of champagne that splashed against Seraphiel's Armani dress. Evelyn, flanked by her father, was backing away, moving toward the bridal suite to lock the door. She was shaking, the adrenaline starting to fade, replaced by a deep, bone-chilling shock. Jayden, seeing her retreat, made one last, desperate attempt. He shoved Arthur aside, sending him tumbling into a large porcelain vase, which shattered. "Evelyn!" he bellowed, his eyes wild. "We can fix this. Tell them you were joking. Tell them it was a breakdown. We can still fix this." "Fix this?" Evelyn stopped, her voice dripping with contempt. "There's no us to fix, Jayden. There is just me, and there is you, a thief. You didn't want a wife. You wanted a patent. You wanted my company. You wanted my mind. You ungrateful." He was speechless, so consumed with rage he was vibrating. He saw the tablet in her hand, the source of his ruin. He lunged again, but he didn't get to her. A solid wall of men blocked his path. It was Evelyn's 2 brothers, Mark and David, who had been sitting with their families. They were not billionaires. They were a contractor and a high school teacher. And they were furious. "I think," Mark said, his voice a low growl as he grabbed the front of Jayden's $20,000 tuxedo. "You heard my sister. Get out." Mark and David didn't wait for an answer. They grabbed Jayden by the arms, his polished shoes skidding on the marble, and began to physically drag him toward the main doors. "You can't do this!" Jayden howled, his dignity evaporating with every step. "Do you know who I am? I am Jayden Thorne. I own this city. You're dead. All of you are dead." "You're not in a boardroom, Jayden," David grunted, shoving him through the doorway and into the flash mob of reporters. "You're just a man who got caught." They threw him out onto the grand stone steps. The crowd of reporters engulfed him, a shark-feeding frenzy. "Mr. Thorne, is it true you tried to defraud your fiancé?" "Jayden, what about the audio? What about Seraphiel Vance?" Is Thorn Dynamics under investigation? Evelyn watched from the top of the stairs. She saw her best friend and maid of honor, Chloe, rushing up to her, her face a mask of horror and concern. Evelyn, my God, are you? Evelyn couldn't speak. She just nodded, her eyes fixed on the man below. Jayden, trapped by the cameras, his face twisted in a mask of impotent fury, looked up and met her gaze. He pointed a finger at her, a silent, vicious promise of revenge. Evelyn didn't flinch. She just held his gaze until her brothers returned to her side, blocking him from her view. It's over, Ellie, Mark said, putting a protective arm around her. Evelyn finally let out the breath she'd been holding since she clicked File 01. She looked at the wreckage of her wedding, the toppled chairs, the weeping orchestra members, the horrified guests whispering in frantic huddles. No, she said, her voice small but hard. It's not over. It's just begun. The week that followed was not a week. It was a trial by media. Evelyn became the most famous woman in the world, a scorned bride who had fought back. She was a folk hero to some, a hysterical, calculating woman to others. Jayden's PR machine, backed by tens of millions of dollars, spun into overdrive. They painted her as unstable. They claimed the audio was a deep fake. They alleged she had tried to extort Jayden, and when he refused, she staged the entire scene to ruin him and void the prenup. Jayden's legal team, the same sharks who had drafted the prenup, filed a volley of lawsuits. They sued her for defamation, for breach of contract, the wedding agreements, and, most devastatingly, they filed an emergency injunction to protect Mr. Thorne's intellectual property, claiming he had given Evelyn the seed funding and core concepts for her Green Crete. It was a lie, but a brilliant, venomous one. A judge, spooked by the media attention and Jayden's army of lawyers, granted a temporary asset freeze on Hayes Innovations. Evelyn's company ground to a halt. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her projects, including the Brooklyn Pediatric Wing, were instantly paralyzed. He's choking me, Evelyn said, pacing the floor of her new lawyer's office. She had moved out of Greystone Manor. It was too tainted, and was staying with her father. Her new lawyer was Madeline "Maddie" Stone, a woman whose reputation was as sharp as her stilettos. She was the one you hired when you didn't just want to win, you wanted to scorch the earth. Of course he is, honey, Maddie said, not looking up from a motion she was drafting. It's the classic Thorne move. He can't win on the facts, so he cuts off your oxygen. He'll bankrupt you before you ever see a courtroom. So what do we do? That whistleblower, Veritas 777. He's gone silent. The email address is dead. The whistleblower did his job, Maddie said. He gave you the gun. Now we have to find the bullets. The audio is good, but his lawyers will tie it up in authenticity hearings for years. Seraphiel, or Sarah Jenkins. She's useless. Jayden posted her bail and she's vanished, probably in a country with no extradition treaty, sipping cocktails paid for with her $20 million consulting fee. So he wins, Evelyn said, her voice flat. He ruins my name, steals my company, and he just wins. Maddie finally looked up, pushing her glasses down her nose. Evelyn, you are an innovator. You build things. You solve problems. This is just the biggest problem you've ever faced. You can't outmuscle him. You can't outspend him. So what do you do? Evelyn stopped pacing. I have to outthink him. There you go. Evelyn spent the next 3 days in a locked room with her father and brothers, whiteboarding. They mapped out everything. Jayden's company, his known associates, Seraphiel. The key is Seraphiel, Evelyn insisted. She was his partner. She was also his mistress. That's a toxic combination. He trusted her with the plan, the the contracts, the offshore accounts. But what if? What if what? Her brother Mark asked. What if he didn't just betray me? Evelyn said, a spark lighting in her eyes. What if he was planning to betray her, too? A double cross, Arthur murmured. Of course, a man that ruthless doesn't have partners. He has tools. Exactly, Evelyn said. Seraphiel is smart. She's a survivor. She knew he'd cut her loose eventually. She wouldn't have just trusted him. She would have had an insurance policy. You're talking about blackmail, Maddie said, joining the session. I'm talking about leverage, Evelyn countered. She had a hard drive, a file, something with all of Jaden's real dirty laundry. Not just my case, everything. Enough to keep him in line. And where is this magical drive? Maddie asked. I don't know, Evelyn admitted. But I know who might. She looked at her laptop. Veritas 7037, the whistleblower. He's not just a random employee. He knew about Seraphiel's alias. He knew about the Swiss bank. He was high level, and he hated them both. Evelyn's fingers flew across the keyboard. She couldn't find him by his email. But how else had he communicated? He had to have been inside Thorn Dynamics' system. She hired a cybersecurity team, a discreet group of white-hat hackers. I want you to find an employee who was fired by Seraphiel Vance in the last 6 months. Someone high-level in IT or finance. Someone with access and a motive. It took 48 hours. They found him. His name was Leo Jacobs. He was the former head of cybersecurity for Thorn Dynamics. Seraphiel had fired him without cause 3 months ago, allegedly for insubordination. Evelyn found his address, a modest apartment in Queens. She went alone. She knocked. The door opened a crack, held by a chain. A pale, nervous man in his late 30s peered out. Leo Jacobs? Veritas 77, Evelyn said. The man tried to slam the door, but Evelyn put her foot in it. Please, I'm not here to expose you. I'm here because I need your help. He's destroying me. He's frozen my company. You're the only one who knows the truth. Leo opened the door. His apartment was dark, piled high with old computer parts. You shouldn't have come here. He's having me watched. I know, Evelyn said. I know you were the one who sent the files. Thank you. You saved my life. But I'm not going to survive the war. His lawyers are burying me. Leo sighed, rubbing his face. I gave you what I had. The audio from the bug I planted in his office. The contracts I pulled from Seraphiel's server. It's not enough. It's not. They're calling it a fake. I need the insurance policy. Seraphiel's leverage. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Leo's eyes widened. The Pandora drive. That's what she called it. I saw her backing it up once. She kept it in a fireproof safe in her office. When she got fired, when I got fired, she must have taken it. She vanished, Leo. Jaden paid her bail, and she's gone. No, she's not, Leo said, a strange, grim smile playing on his lips. She's gone to ground. She's not in the Caymans. She's smart. She's waiting. She's hiding right here in New York. And Jaden is hunting her. What? You didn't just expose a betrayal, Ms. Hayes. You started a war between them. Jaden knows she has that drive. He's not trying to pay her off. He's trying to find her. He wants that drive. Because it doesn't just have your fraud on it. It has everything. The Swiss scandal, the market manipulation, the bribes to politicians. It's the key to his entire rotten empire. Evelyn's blood ran cold. So it's a race. Whoever finds Seraphiel first. But wins, Leo finished. And Jaden has unlimited resources. He will find her. And when he does, he'll get that drive. And he will bury you and her. Permanently. A new, terrifying urgency set in. This was no longer a legal dispute. It was a manhunt. Evelyn, Leo, and Maddie Stone huddled in a clean room, a rented office space swept for bugs, paid for in cash by Evelyn's father. Leo, you were head of cybersecurity. You knew Seraphil. Where would she go? Evelyn asked. She needs money. She needs to be invisible. But she needs to be close enough to her assets to make a move. She has an encrypted laptop, that's certain, Leo said. She's probably using a series of proxy servers, bouncing her signal all over the world. But she has a weakness. Her name. Her real name. Sarah Jenkins. We know that, Maddie said. No, you know the name, but you don't know the person, Leo countered. I did a deep dive on her after she fired me. Sarah Jenkins wasn't just involved in that Swiss tech scandal 5 years ago. She was the mastermind, the founder who mysteriously died by suicide. He was her fiancé. She stole his tech, faked his suicide note, and sold the company to a shell corp, which, I later learned, was Jaden's first big acquisition. That's how they met. He didn't hire an assistant. He recruited a fellow predator. Evelyn felt nauseous. She killed him? It was ruled a suicide, but the parallels are chilling, Leo said. My point is, she's done this before. She has a playbook. She has a ghost identity. But to maintain that identity, she'd need a bolt hole, a place she set up years ago. Leo's fingers flew across a new, clean laptop. I can't track her digitally, but I can track her financially, in reverse. I'm searching for property deeds, utilities, anything under Sarah Jenkins or known aliases, but purchased before she was Seraphil Vance. He worked for an hour, the only sound in the room, the click-clack of keys. Evelyn's heart pounded. Got her, Leo whispered. He pointed to the screen. A high-end storage unit, climate-controlled, biometric access, at a place called Fortress Storage in Long Island City. Rented 5 years ago, paid in full for 10 years, under the name Sarah Jenkins. Her drive, Evelyn breathed. It's not on her, it's in the storage unit. That's her dead man's switch. If Jaden finds her, the drive is still safe. And she's the only one with biometric access, Maddie concluded. She has to go to it. She can't flee the country without her leverage. Jaden knows this, Evelyn realized. He's not hunting her. He's watching the storage unit. He'll have PIs, ex-Mossad, whatever, Leo agreed. The second she scans her thumb, they'll grab her and the drive. Evelyn looked at Maddie, a wild, desperate plan forming in her mind. Maddie, you said Jaden's team filed a motion to freeze my assets, claiming I stole his IP. Yes, it's bullshit, but it's effective. What if we use it against him? Evelyn said. We need to get Seraphil out of hiding. We need to force her to go for that drive now. How? We leak a story, Evelyn said, her voice turning cold. Not just any story. We leak to Page 6 and the Wall Street Journal. We leak that I'm settling, that I've given up, that I'm turning over the Green Crete patent to Jaden in exchange for him dropping the defamation suit and giving me a generous and quiet settlement. Maddie's eyes widened. Oh, that's nasty and brilliant. If Seraphil thinks you're out of the picture and that Jaden has won, she'll panic, Leo finished. She'll think she's lost her only distraction. She'll think Jaden's next target is her. She'll grab her leverage and run. She'll go for the drive. It's a trap, Evelyn said. But it's not just a trap for her. It's a trap for him. What's the play, Evelyn? Maddie asked. The play is this. We leak the settlement story. Jaden's team, in their arrogance, will confirm it to the press to make me look weak. Seraphil will see it. She'll run to the storage unit. Jaden's men will be waiting for her. But we'll be waiting for all of them. Evelyn, we can't just get in a firefight with Jaden's private army, Leo said. We won't, Evelyn said, pulling out her phone. We're going to call the one group Jaden Thorne can't buy. She dialed a number. Hello? Yes. I need to speak to Agent Callahan in the White-Collar Crime Division. Tell him Evelyn Hayes is calling. I'm ready to make a statement, and I know exactly where he can find Pandora's box. The leak was not a leak. It was a precision-guided missile. Maddie Stone, her phone pressed to her ear, stood in the clean room with Evelyn. That's right, Ben, she said, her voice smooth and conversational, speaking to Ben Marlowe, the most notorious columnist at Page 6. She's caving. He's just too big. She's devastated, of course. Giving up the patent is like giving up a child. But Thorne's legal team has her in a chokehold. She just wants it to be over. Maddie listened, then smiled. The source? Just say it's an insider close to the negotiations. Yes, it's imminent. He gets the patent. She gets to walk away with her reputation. What's left of it? Evelyn sat at the table, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. This was the gamble. They were betting everything that Jaden's monstrous ego and Seraphiel's paranoid survival instincts would collide. Now the journal, Maddie said, hanging up and immediately dialing another number. This one is for the financial blood. We're not leaking a settlement. We're leaking a corporate restructuring. Within an hour, the digital world exploded. Page 6 ran the blaring, cruel headline. Bride caves. Evelyn Hayes taps out. Surrenders Green Crete. Patent to Billionaire X. The Wall Street Journal was more measured but infinitely more damaging. Thorne Hayes dispute nears resolution. Sources confirm full IP consolidation by Thorne Dynamics. Jaden's PR team, as Evelyn had predicted, couldn't resist a victory lap. They released an official, gloating statement. Mr. Thorne is pleased Ms. Hayes has chosen to resolve this matter privately and return the intellectual property she misappropriated during their relationship. He wishes her well in her future endeavors. He wishes me well, Evelyn seethed, reading the statement. Let him, Maddie said, packing her briefcase. Let him have his triumph. The taller the pedestal, the harder the fall. Agent Callahan's team is in place. Leo is wired in. It's time. The surveillance van was parked 3 blocks from Fortress Storage in Long Island City. It was 2:17 a.m. The air inside was stale, smelling of cold coffee and ozone from the humming banks of electronics. Evelyn sat on a hard bench, her gaze fixed on a monitor. Beside her, Leo Jacobs, now clean-shaven and wearing an FBI windbreaker, typed furiously on his laptop. I'm in, Leo whispered, his voice tinny over the comms system. I'm routing the storage facility's internal security feed to our monitors. Jaden's team is across the street in a black Escalade. They're good. They're watching the outside. They've probably cloned the entry gate signal, but they can't see the inside. We can. Agent Callahan, a man whose rumpled suit couldn't hide his coiled energy, leaned over Leo's shoulder. What are they seeing? A loop, Leo said with a grim smile. I'm feeding Jaden's team a 60-second loop of the empty, rain-slicked street. As far as they're concerned, nothing is happening. But for us, we see everything. Evelyn's heart was a drum against her ribs. This was it. The waiting. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the crackle of the radio and the click-clack of Leo's keys. She found her mind drifting back to the wedding day. The scent of peonies, the weight of the diamond, the sick, plunging elevator feeling when she heard his voice on that audio file. She'll have a lovely, gilded cage. A cold fury, sharp and pure, burned away her fear. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was the bait. "Movement," Leo suddenly hissed. "We have movement. Pedestrian, female, dark clothes, moving fast, West Side Alley." Evelyn leaned in, her breath fogging the small screen. A figure, almost a ghost, darted from the shadows. A baseball cap, a dark hoodie, a heavy duffel bag. The figure moved with a frantic, hunted energy, checking every corner, every parked car. "She's not running from Jayden," Evelyn murmured. "She's running to her escape." The figure reached the side door of the storage facility, a discreet, key-coded employee entrance. A hand, pale and trembling, typed in a code. The light flashed green. The door opened. "She's in," Callahan said, his voice calm but his eyes electric. "All teams hold. I repeat, hold. Let her get the package. Let them engage. I want them all in one place, and I want them caught holding the evidence." On Leo's internal feed, they watched the woman, Seraphiel, sprint through the sterile white corridors. She was a shadow of the sleek, impossibly poised woman who had stood in the front row of the wedding. This was Sarah Jenkins, a paranoid, cornered animal. She reached floor 3, aisle 12. She ran to unit 312. She didn't use a key. She placed her thumb on the biometric scanner. "That's the one," Leo whispered. "Biometric lock. Only she can open it." "And it's a smart lock," Callahan added, his jaw tight. The second she pressed that, it sent a silent text alert. "Jayden's team knows she's here." On the street monitor, the Escalade's lights flashed. The doors burst open. "They're moving," an agent in the van called out. 4 large men, dressed in dark suits that screamed "private security," moved like a professional stack, breaching the side door Seraphiel had just used. "They're in the building," Leo confirmed, tracking them on the internal cameras. "Stairwell B. They're heading for the 3rd floor. Fast." In the corridor of Unit 312, Seraphiel had the rolling door open. She dove inside. A moment later, she emerged, clutching a silver, bomb-proof, Halliburton hard case, her insurance policy, her Pandora's box. She turned to run, and froze. At the end of the aisle, the 4 men stood, blocking her path. They fanned out, their faces devoid of expression. Seraphiel let out a sound, a high, thin wail of pure terror. She clutched the case to her chest. "He sent you. He sent you to kill me, didn't he?" The lead man, a brute with a shaved head, didn't answer. He just lunged. "Give us the case." "No, it's mine," she shrieked, fighting with a rabid intensity. She bit his hand, kneed another man in the groin. She was fighting for her life. "She's too much trouble," one of the men grunted, pulling something from his jacket. "A taser." "Now!" Callahan roared. The entire building seemed to explode. From the freight elevator at one end of the hall and the stairwell at the other, 2 teams of FBI agents in full tactical gear burst into the corridor. "FBI, hands in the air! Drop your weapons! Hands in the air, now!" The boom of Callahan's voice, amplified by a bullhorn, echoed like the voice of God in the concrete tunnel. Jayden's private army, trained for corporate espionage and intimidation, froze. They were hard, but they weren't expecting this. This was not on the payroll. One of them, the man with the taser, made a fatal mistake. He twitched, turning the weapon not toward the agents, but toward Seraphiel, as if to destroy the evidence. "Drop it!" an agent bellowed, and a non-lethal beanbag round slammed into the man's chest, folding him in half. The other 3 instantly dropped their weapons and raised their hands. "We're not armed! We're private security! We're stopping a robbery!" one of them yelled. "You're under arrest for aggravated assault, kidnapping, and conspiracy," Callahan said, stepping into the light. Agents swarmed them, cuffing them with brutal efficiency. Seraphiel, hyperventilating, was slumped against the wall, her eyes wide with shock, still clutching the silver case. Evelyn stepped out of the stairwell behind Callahan. She had to see this. Seraphiel's terrified gaze landed on her. The fear was instantly replaced by a venomous, uncomprehending rage. "You!" she shrieked, pointing a shaking finger. "This was you! You set me up! You set us both up!" "I just wanted my company back, Seraphiel," Evelyn said, her voice ice-cold. She felt no pity. This woman had kissed Jayden over the audio of her life's destruction. "You're the one who brought this." She nodded at the case. "All of this." "He was going to kill me," Seraphiel screamed, tears of rage and terror streaming down her face. "He was going to kill you too, you idiot. I saved you. That first email, that was my associate. I was trying to warn you." Evelyn paused. This was a twist. Veritas 77. "That was you." "Not me, you fool. An old associate, Leo Jacobs, the IT worm I fired. I let him get the audio. I let him see the contracts. I needed you to stop the wedding. I needed you to create a diversion so I could get away with my money. But you had to play the hero. You blew everything up." Leo stepped forward from behind Evelyn. "You didn't let me, Seraphiel. You got sloppy. You underestimated me. Just like you both underestimated her." Seraphiel's face contorted. She'd been played from every angle. Agent Callahan stepped between them. "Sarah Jenkins," he said, his voice flat and official. "You're under arrest for your connection to the 2020 death of Marcel Dubois in Switzerland, and for conspiracy to commit corporate fraud." No, I have a deal," Seraphiel panicked, thrusting the case forward. It's all here, everything. Jayden, the bribes, the market manipulation, the other murders. I'll give you everything. I'll testify. I want full immunity." Callahan looked at the case, then at her. "Thank you for the evidence." An agent gently took the case from her unresisting hands. "As for immunity," Callahan said, "that's not for me to decide." He nodded, and 2 agents pulled her to her feet, cuffing her. "We're not done," Evelyn said, turning to Callahan. Her heart was pounding. This was bigger than she ever knew. "We have the conspirators. We have the evidence. Now, we get the king." 2 hours later. Teterboro Airport. The air was cold and sharp, smelling of jet fuel. Jayden Thorne was not a man who waited. He stood on the tarmac under the wing of his gleaming Gulfstream G650, its engines idling with a low, powerful whine. His flight plan for a non-extradition country had been filed for an hour. He was just waiting for the call. His pilot leaned out of the cockpit. "Sir, we're outside our flight window. We need to go." "We go when I say we go," Jayden snapped. He was running on pure adrenaline and rage. Evelyn's settlement was a public victory, but it was a private humiliation. He needed that drive. He needed to erase Seraphiel, the last loose end. Then he would disappear for 6 months, let the dust settle, and return to dismantle what was left of Evelyn's life, just for sport. His satellite phone rang. He snatched it up, turning his back to the wind. "Do you have it?" "We do, Mr. Thorne." The voice was calm, male, and unfamiliar. Jayden froze. "Who is this? Where's my team?" "Your team is currently in federal custody," the voice said. "But your package is secure. It's even more valuable than you thought. I'd recommend you don't board that plane." "Who the hell is this?" Jayden roared. "This is Agent Callahan with the Federal Bureau of Investigation." Jayden's blood turned to ice. He looked up. From the darkness at the edge of the private airfield, a line of dark, imposing SUVs, their lights off, had formed a silent semicircle around his jet. Then, in unison, they all flashed, bathing the tarmac in a blinding, disorienting sea of red and blue. "Jaden Thorne!" Callahan's voice boomed from a loudspeaker, echoing across the airfield. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, securities fraud, corporate espionage, and on suspicion of accessory to homicide." Jaden was paralyzed. He looked at the plane. He looked at the wall of federal agents now approaching him, weapons drawn. He had nowhere to run. He, Jaden Thorne, was trapped. "How much?" he suddenly yelled, his voice cracking. "How much? $1 million? $5 million to your retirement account? Just let me walk onto the plane." Agent Callahan stopped 5 feet from him. "Mr. Thorne, you're trying to bribe a federal officer. That's another 5 to 10 years. He nodded. "Take him." 2 agents grabbed Jaden's arms, yanking them behind his back with painful force. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound Jaden had ever heard. As they pushed his head down to put him in the lead car, he saw her. Evelyn Hayes stepped out of the shadows, her face illuminated by the flashing lights. She wasn't in a wedding dress. She was in a simple black coat, her hair pulled back, her eyes as hard as diamonds. She just stood there, watching. His entire world, his empire, his jet, his future, had just evaporated, and it was all because of her. The rage was so profound, so complete, it was all he had left. "You!" he spat, his voice a venomous rasp. "You did this, you ungrateful, stupid bitch! You've destroyed everything." Evelyn walked forward until she was just a few feet from him. The agents paused, giving her the moment. "No, Jaden," she said, her voice clear and carrying over the wail of the sirens. "You destroyed yourself. You just did it so slowly you didn't notice." I loved you," he shrieked, a desperate final lie. "I would have given you the world." "I never wanted the world," Evelyn said. "I just wanted my work. I wanted a partner. But you don't have partners, do you? You only have assets. You thought my idealism was weakness. You thought my love was stupidity. You thought you could gut my life's work and I'd be happy with a gilded cage." She leaned in closer. "You're a corporate raider, Jaden. You buy things, you strip them, and you sell them for parts. That's all you know how to do. And you tried to do it to me." He stared at her, his face a mask of impotent fury. "It's funny," she finished, a cold, sad smile touching her lips. "You taught me something. You always said, in business, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. You tried to negotiate my life, and you lost." "Get her away from me," he roared. "With pleasure," Agent Callahan said. Evelyn didn't watch them put him in the car. She had seen enough. She turned her back on the man, the plane, and the entire toxic chapter of her life, and walked away. 8 months later, the Pandora's Box trial was the trial of the decade. The evidence on Serafield's hard drive was a cancer that metastasized, implicating dozens. The trial of Jaden Thorne and Sarah Serafield Jenkins was a media circus. They turned on each other like scorpions in a bottle, each revealing horrors about the other, from financial crimes to the Swiss suicide. The verdict was swift. Jaden Thorne was found guilty on 47 counts. He was sentenced to 25 years in a federal maximum security prison. Serafield, for her, minimal cooperation, and the Swiss charges, received 20. Thorne Dynamics was forcibly dissolved by the SEC, its assets seized and liquidated to create the Thorne Victims Fund, a multi-billion-dollar restitution program for the thousands of people his company had defrauded. Evelyn Hayes got her company back. It was a fight. The legal battles took months. But with the evidence from the trial, her name was cleared. The temporary freeze was lifted. And with the civil suit she won against Jaden's, now bankrupt estate, Hayes Innovations was fully funded. Today, Evelyn was not in a courtroom or a surveillance van. She was on a construction site in Brooklyn, wearing a hard hat and a bright orange vest. She was watching the final, shimmering, pale green panel of greencrete being hoisted by a crane. It was the last piece of the new pediatric wing. Her father, Arthur, stood beside her, his arm wrapped tightly around her shoulders. "It's beautiful, Ellie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You did it." "No, Dad," she said, smiling. "We did it." Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Maddie Stone. "It's done. DOJ just announced the Thorn Victims Fund. Your civil settlement is the first payout. Your patent is officially 100% ironclad, back in your name. You're free. P.S. They're auctioning his G650. Want to put in a bid?" Evelyn laughed, a real, genuine laugh. She typed back, "No thanks. I'm busy building things that last." She looked up at the building rising against the New York skyline. It was strong, it was honest, and it was real. She thought back to the 8-carat diamond, how cold and heavy it had felt on her hand. She took off her work glove and pressed her bare palm against the greencrete wall. It was solid, it was warm from the sun. And for the first time in a long, long time, Evelyn Hayes felt truly, perfectly free. Jaden Thorne built an empire on arrogance, believing he was untouchable. He saw Evelyn as a beautiful asset to be acquired, not as a brilliant woman to be respected. He forgot one crucial thing. You should never, ever underestimate the person you're trying to destroy. In the end, Evelyn didn't just walk away from the aisle. She walked into a war, and she used his own weapons, his greed, his conspiracy, and his arrogance to burn his empire to the ground, the gilded cage he built for her. It's now a 6x8 prison cell. And Evelyn? She's not building a life with a billionaire. She's building a better world on her own terms. What did you think of Evelyn's ultimate revenge? Was it pure justice, or was it cold calculation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and if you love stories about justice, karma, and strong heroines, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Click that bell so you never miss a single story. Thanks for watching.